just been told we're not sure the screen is on. Here we go. Sorry about that. Let me back up. I missed a button. Alrighty. You guys should all see my screen now, right? That works now. Good. Perfect. Sorry about that. So let me back up. See, I was so excited to show you guys all the new features. I just went to town on it. So let me back up here and we'll start again. So the new feature that I'm talking about is about being able to copy styles from any entities tree to any entities tree. So the styles could be drafting styles. Here I'm going to do it in the land of a 3D document just for fun. I'm going to go create a new style here. Okay, I'm going to call this Bill frame. And the only thing I'm going to change on it is I don't want arrows at the ends. I want to see the actual XYZ letters. Okay, I'm going to make this my current frame. And let's go build a frame just so you can see what it did. Okay, so I'm going to pop it in right there. Good enough. I don't care about its orientation. But if you notice, now you see an X, Y, and Z on that frame. Okay, and while that wasn't very difficult to make, maybe you have a couple of others that you want to do. So for example, I want to copy this and just paste it right here, right? And I'm going to go edit this one, and we're going to call it Bill frame long. And here, I'm going to make my X 200%. Okay, and now if we set this one as current, right, or we apply it, now notice the X-axis is long. So now I have a couple of different frames. That's great. Now, what can I do with them? I can take both of these and I can copy them, and I can go into some other file. We'll go into my bearing assembly here. Why not? And I can go to my styles, into my frames here, and I can paste that Bill frame right into there. Okay, so you can go from document to document. You can copy frames all over the place, or not just frames, but styles all over the place. And it's just a handy little fast trick. Okay, alrighty, let's move on. From here, I'm going to go into a different sample here. We're going to introduce you guys to the 3D contour wizard. This is actually kind of cool. I think it's more useful in machining or in complex surfacing. So here I have some kind of cavity block. Okay, and I'm just going to start creating some boundary curves. Okay, the boundary curves are going to be used maybe in machining down the road or to make some kind of surface, who knows. But if I go into my 3D sketcher and I hit start, inside of contour here, you have a new command called contour wizard. So I can go, I'm going to start right here, why not? I'm going to go this way, and notice I can just click on the arrow in the direction that I want to go. Maybe now I want to go down here. Okay, I can also activate follow tangencies, and you notice when I do that, it extends when I go left or right to all the tangent elements so that you can quickly get to your finish line, whatever that finish line might be. Maybe we're just doing this, like I said, because we want to create some kind of toolpath just over that area. Lovely. Okay, I think you guys get the idea. That's 3D Contour Wizard. It's kind of neat. All right, next, we're going to talk about partial profile offsets. Now, partial profile offsets can be handy, and here again, I'm going to relate this to using it in machining, but for those of you that are designers in the audience today, I'm sure you can envision where you might use this, okay? So what I want to do is I'm going to make a little assembly to create a custom, let's say, forging for this part here, which is my transfer shaft, okay? So I'm going to go into that project. All right, I'm going to go make a new folder here just so that I can have a place to put it, and we'll call this assembly just for giggles. And I want to know where this part is. So if I click on it once, okay, that's my transfer shaft. There it is. So I'm going to go here and make a new assembly. All right, and I'm going to take my transfer shaft, pop it in here, and now I'm going to do a new in-place part. So when I do my in-place part, I'm going to go look and see which where my planes are at. That works for me, and I'll make a sketch right here. So first thing I want to do on this one, it's pretty simple, is I'm going to get the outline, the revolved silhouette of this, right? You can see a preview of it. That looks perfect. From here, going to validate my sketch, and now I'm going to use the new command. So the new command is kind of cool. What I want to do with this is, again, it's a sketch operation. I'm going to go here to offset. I'm going to be just on local mode, and I want to offset this profile here. Okay. Once I've selected the profile, I come into here and I choose what I want it to be. So for example, I want it to be here to be 0. And then I'm going to start another one. I'm going to go here, and this is going to be 0.03. Then this is where the improvement comes in. If I right click on this, I can say I want that 0.03 until that segment. Kind of cool. I'm going to go to here. I'm going to set this to 0.03. So notice right now, I have a custom offset, that's perfect. Now I'm going to add another one right here. This one is going to be, let's say, 0.08. Okay, and I want this until this. And notice it even solves the collision of geometries there, and we are getting custom profiles. Now, one final step about this command, which is kind of cool, if you hover on this, you see, and I'm going to zoom up on it, you see it's showing you with this yellow curve the start and end of that custom offset profile. So this way you can create whatever you need to create. If this is all you needed, we can say that's great, and then we can revolve the sketch. Let me get out of that. And now you have your custom stock made, or whatever. Okay, maybe this is just to create the forging for this. Again, a handy little tool. It saves a lot of unnecessary steps. Cool. Let's keep going. What's next on my list? Repeated Boolean. Okay, so this one's a small one, but it's a handy one. So if I look here, again, this is my little windmill assembly, right? And I'm looking at my generator back here. So I want to go find where that generator is. There's the generator. And let's look at how this was designed in TopSolid. Now, this is just a loose representation of a generator. I put it together so that you guys could see the difference in a command. So if I go to my history tree here, what I did is I created my own little shape, right? So I have an extruded shape in there that I did a Boolean with. If I go back up here, you'll see it. This is the Boolean. This is what you're used to doing in cases like this. And then I repeated the Boolean. So it's 2 steps in history. What if they didn't have to be 2 steps? And this is where the improvement comes in. So here again, I have my solid. I'm going to just go to the shape tab, and underneath Boolean now is a new command called repeated Boolean. In fact, it's just a merger of those 2 commands you ran manually. So I'm modifying my main shape with my tool shape. I'm going to go define a pattern really fast here. Okay, we're going to say, I don't know, 15 instances. That's good enough. I'm going to click OK. And what did I fat finger? Let's try that one more time. Let's go here. 12. I think that's right. There we go. I think I just fat fingered something. But at the end of the day, the improvement is that you can create this in 1 step versus 2 steps. So just a little bit more efficient. Okay. Moving on in my list of wonderful things. All right, next on my list is I'm going to show you guys a new command, or an updated command, I should say, that has to do with offsetting shapes with special faces. And to do that, I'm going to go pull from a different sample. Okay, so let's go to shape here, and we'll go to offset shape. Let's use this one. Perfect. So I'm going to show only, I'm going to hide this, pardon me. So here I have a copy of faces, right? And my goal, maybe I'm making a fixture for this, or who knows, but my goal is to offset everything 1 millimeter except the outer faces. So watch, we're going to go here. I'm going to come on down to other operations, and I'll come on down to offset. I'm going to pick my face. Now, right now, everything is being offset 1 millimeter. If I go to special faces and I select this face, notice what it does. It sets it back to 0, and it solves the problem of the fillet. Okay? If I go to this face, No preview means no good. It means it can't solve it yet. You probably have to add more geometry. But at the end of the day, you're not spending a lot of time doing manual surfacing. You're just banging out the change that needs to be made. And like that, that's been offset that 1 millimeter. Job done. All right, let's keep going. Okay, so next what I'm going to do is called tangent. It's a new tangent surface command. Again, this is going to be in just a simple sample. So I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to go to my tangent surface command here. So let me delete this really quick. So we have this part. Maybe you're machining these faces or whatever, and you want to extend or create tangent extensions off these faces just so that you can get better overlap with your toolpath. When I do show what's new in TopSolid for machining, especially 3D machining, I'm going to use this command to show how to get some sharper edges in toolpath and whatnot as well. But let's have a look. So if I go into here, right, we can go down and we can find our tangent surface command. It's right there. It's really quite simple. You select a face to reference, and then I go select an edge. Okay, and now I have a tangent surface. But what makes this really, really interesting is the fact that I can just start going around, because this is all one sewn body of surfaces, and I can start adding all the faces that I want to add, or all the edges, I should say. Kind of cool. Do we need the whole thing? No, too much. So now you have your tangent surface extensions, and good to go. Okay, so next one, a new improvement in visualization tools. So many of you guys know about the cut command, right? So for example, I want to create a cut right down the center of this. Let's go right there and flip it over so you can see. Now, that's fine and dandy, but it's kind of hard to see certain things. Maybe you want to show things that are sectioned or not sectioned. For example, this new command here allows me to select entities to remove from the cut. Okay, because maybe I want to see these gears as they spin. Maybe we'll throw on one of those as well. Okay, and now if I go to my simulation and I can go hit play, now you can analyze the gears and everything else that's spinning in there a little bit more easily. Kind of cool. And when you're done, deactivate the cut. From there, we have a representation improvement as well that I find kind of interesting. If we zoom up and look at one of these, and maybe we'll go over here, it'll be easier. You see how my ball bearings, well, it's only got one ball. So it's not a very efficient bearing. Let me show you where this comes from. So if I come into here and I go to my ball bearing, or my bearing assembly, right? So let me go to this assembly. And now I want to go into this part itself, the bearing itself. Now, because this is just meant to be a bearing, and it's there for representation's sake, I just designed everything inside of a part file, okay? Because again, it's a purchasable component. I don't really care. I just need to display it loosely correctly, okay? So the problem here is that these shapes were not added to the representation. So those of you that have played with representations before, you know, sometimes it can be a pain. Like last year's improvement, I could double click on here and I can go and more easily select things, right? But still, when there's a lot of entities to be added to a representation, that can take a lot of work. So here's the new improvement. If I go and expand this folder here, this is all of the bearings of my repetition. I can right click on it, go right here to others, add to representations. I can choose all of them in one shot. One of them, it's up to you. But now when I click OK and hit save, if I go back to my bearing assembly, now the bearings show up there. And of course, if I go back to my main assembly, now all the bearings are present in there as well. Pretty cool. Again, instead of you having to click through all sorts of things, Made it a little bit simpler. Okay, last one on the design side that I'm going to show. Oops, I see a question from John. Tangent surfaces, what about the corners? There's a solution for that. You can do a swept surface or a lofted surface between those. Okay, the tangent surface has to have something to come off of at that fine point. There is no element for it to come off of, so you'd have to loft or sweep around that corner. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and go to fill pattern next. So fill pattern, I'm just looking at my notes here. Let's go back over to here, and it's under 11 here. And sure, let's look at this one. So the fill pattern command is kind of really cool because, as you can see in this little, I don't know, railing, we just wanted to fill this thing with holes, right? So let's talk about what it's actually doing. The fill pattern command is a type of repetition, okay? So if I go to my fill pattern, I can use profiles, I can use a user profile, it doesn't really matter. Section to fill, right? That's this face. Exclusion profiles, that's this. And then, here, let me turn this on, sorry. And then you have two types. You have a matrix or something called a quincunx, which, yes, is the real mathematical terminology for this, and it's a fun word to say. If I go to quincunx, you can see how it organizes everything, okay? If I go to matrix, you can see how it organizes everything. But it's taking this hole, or this drilling that we put in right at this point, and it's just filling everywhere. So it doesn't matter where you start it from. You can put your feature wherever you like, and off you go, okay? And the other aspect here is if this changes, for example, we make this 200 millimeters, notice it updated that repetition. So you can control everything with exclusions this way. It's a really, really powerful new pattern strategy. All right, so I think that brings us to an end on most of the major new things in design. We're going to get into some other things in drafting next, and if there's some time at the end, I can poke around in some of the other areas of the software. Again, my team and I here, we just picked some of our favorite new features. So let me close some things down here. And now the rest of this, I'm going to go ahead and work through samples of drafting improvements. Okay? So let me minimize some of this. And we'll come down to drafting. So this year has been a pretty good year in drafting. There's been lots of new improvements. So first one I'm going to talk about is on interrupted views. Okay, so if any of you guys use interrupted views, you're going to like this. It's pretty straightforward. I want to create an interrupted view here, and I want to go from here to here. That's great. Okay, so if you've never done an interrupted view before, this is how hard it is. But now, what if you want to do multiple interruptions to the same view? So you can come here and edit the interrupted view, and I can just go in here and I can add all of the interruptions I want, and it just reads it properly. So it made it very, very simple to get the interrupted view accomplished. Okay. Next, I'm going to close that out. We're going to talk about something called a new command called display priority. Okay. This is really handy for those of you watching that make setup sheets from TopSolid CAM. Maybe those setup sheets are showing the part in the stock like it is here. Okay. Notice right now you can clearly see the part you're machining and the stock around it. That's not been the case in previous versions. Let me show you what I mean. If I go and make a new section, so I'm gonna make a section on that view, we'll pop it in right there. Great. Let it make its section, we'll pop it down. That's lovely. So right now you can't really tell what's what. So under the view command here, you have something new called display priority. Display priority lets you select the items you want, and then you can choose what's on the foreground and what's on the background. So for example, if I go into here, I can say on background, the actual part is on the foreground, go, and now the view is significantly easier to see and understand. Again, great for setup sheets. All right, let's move on. For those of you that were ever interested in controlling view titles a little bit more, there's a great new improvement here. So if I go into my projection, and again, maybe you don't know this, maybe you do, you have the ability to add a visible title, okay? But before, it wasn't very exciting for what you could do with it. It was usually just pulling the name of the projection, or you just put manual text in there. Now, when you go to edit, you'll notice that you have this editor, which is the same editor as our rich text format. So everything you can do in the rich text format notes before, you can now do here. For example, I can come into here. I'm going to stretch this out a little bit, right? Maybe we'll position this over to here. I'm going to come here and I'm going to go pull a parameter. Why not? Okay, so I want parameter from set. That's great. I'm going to just call this that, and I'm going to say main set. I'm going to say wheel hub, and I'm going to say mass. Okay, and 3 decimals is enough. Perfect. And I'm going to hit go. So now I've included that in there, and I'm done. Okay, so again, could make it interesting for putting better titles onto your drafting views. Okay. All right, what's next? Don't matter. Let's go to axes and external border. This one's kind of interesting. So we got some feedback from people saying they want better control of axes. So what we're going to do here is, it's quite simple, in fact. I can go to my axis here, right-click on it, and I can go to resize. This is the improvement. Now you have these little grips. Grab onto them, put them to where you want. If you want, you can extend them towards a target. So you can choose a target to extend to, and it'll go to that target. If you don't like the target, you can go to whatever. Okay, so just a simple little improvement, and then the axis stays where it's at, and you're done. Okay, another little one, we had people want to be able to turn off this blue edge on the border. So fine, why not? Let's go into here. It's just called external border. If you turn it off, then you notice you don't see that anymore, and it won't print out anymore on your drawings. Okay, so little things, but functional. All right, table improvement. So for those of you that make tables in TopSolid, you should enjoy this improvement. So first and foremost, I want to put a table on top of an existing table. Okay, so let's just take this view, for example, and let's add a drilling table. Let it pop up. I'm going to say I'm going to put this on the first point there. My second point will be over here. That's great. Okay, and I'll validate. So now we have our drilling table. Where the improvement is 2 things. First of all, if I go here and I edit this table and I go and change this, right? Now notice the table follows. We had a format issue before where you'd have to go and repick your points if you had tables on top of the tables. Another little improvement, if my memory is correct, is this. You don't want to see your heading, for example. Turn it off. Okay? So again, 2 little improvements when it comes to tables. All right, from there, let's move on to the next one. Don't matter. All right, in drilling tables, this one will probably make many of you that make drawings, let alone users drilling tables, kind of happy. If you look, we have a very well organized table. Now, in versions past, to get this organization done was a little bit tricky. So I'm going to show you now that it's not. So I'm going to delete that. Let's go ahead and put a drilling table back in. Why not? So that's our view. I'm just going to hook it right here. And you'll notice that it's going to come up exactly how it did when I opened the document. Okay? Why? And that's really the question, is how is the sorting being handled? So once this is done generating, let's go to our entities tree and let's go find our drilling table style. So we'll come down to here. This is the style I'm using. If we go and edit it, this is the improvement is grouping. I want to group by predefined groups, okay? Up here is my predefined groups. And I created some rules. This one I called diameter less than 10, okay? So if you notice, I just set the property to diameter less than 10 millimeters. This next one is diameters greater than or equal to 10, less than or equal to 20, and so on, okay? So you can create the rules that you want to create just to be able to control that drilling table a bit better. Make some sense? All right, let's keep on going. Yeah, we can do this one. So there's another little improvement. I could have done it on the last one on just regular dimensioning. So many of you know that in the special inputs here, you had the ability to get to the extreme point or the intersection, but now midpoint is an option. So if I wanted to have a dimension from the midpoint of there to there to maybe this axis here, why not? Perfect, it's now possible. Okay, and you don't have to fight with the software to get it done. So little improvement, but a nice one nonetheless. Okay, next, let's talk about faceted shapes. So it is possible to start dimensioning faceted shapes. And where would this be handy? Again, this is for all of my guys programming parts in TopSolid and using the faceted stock models inside of TopSolid, or in TopSolid CAM, I should say. When you make your setup sheets and your drawings, you want to be able to throw some reference dimensions on there. And again, that's the key word. It's a reference dimension because you're pulling it from a faceted model. So a faceted model is a triangulated model, right? If I go into here to my visualization, there's an option here called faceted shape vertex selection. You must turn this on in order to dimension on a faceted shape. Once you do, you can go and add some dimensions. So we can go from here to here, for example, and now we have a dimension on there, okay? If you notice when you're mousing over, you should get little points. Sometimes it takes a second to generate. There you go. That is the endpoint of a facet. So again, the whole goal here is to give you the ability to put some reference dimensions onto these prints. Perfect. Not so important. Yes, this one might make everyone happy as well. So for all of our tools where you can throw a note on something, whether it's a drilling note, an actual note, whatever, okay? We've made an improvement with how the leader attaches to the nose. So if you notice, as I swing this around, the leader is now radially following that part, right? Or the box. How? Well, if we go and edit this and we come down to text, first of all, you have your framing options, right? So if I don't want a closed frame and I don't want an underline, I can just go to empty. And then down here, you have something called radial mode, okay? So radial mode is yes. And now radial mode being yes means that it's going to automatically always follow around that note. Nice and simple. Alrighty, let's see what's next on our list here. That's so important. Let's talk about some exploded or some stacking annotations, okay? So sometimes when you have a bill of material, things get a little busy, right? So when things get busy, sometimes what you want to do is you want to be able to stack annotations, right? So for example, I'm just going to take these two right here, okay? And it's kind of silly what I'm about to do, but trust me, it'll be fine. So we're going to go here to stack annotations, and I'm going to say let's add that annotation to it. And now they're stacked on top of each other. Okay, if you want to remove the stacking, you right click on it, unstack annotations, and it'll return to the way it was. Okay, So those are the major new improvements for drafting as well. Does anybody have any questions on any of the functionality that I have shown today? Again, I think we're doing well on time. We're kept it around a half an hour, which is good. Arrows, what does that mean, John Caves? Are you referring to changing the size of arrows on the dimension? Yes, it's controlled in the style, in fact. Here, I can show you really quick if you like. So you're talking about wanting to control that there? Okay. So this, we can do it right in here if you want. Not in there. You can do it either right here in editing of the dimension. Okay. I think, let's see. Yep. Is it geometry? It's one of these two. It's either geometry or arrows. Third line. Let's see. Symbol, symbol, symbol. Arrow length, arrow angle. So if I make this 5 millimeters, there you go. It would be better to do that in a style so that it's set once and for all. You're welcome. Does anyone else have any questions for the day? Okay. If anyone wants any of these sample projects, we're happy to make them available to you. I'll try to put them on the blog later on when I publish the video from today's webinar. Just as a reminder, we have a webinar scheduled for every Friday for the next 6 Fridays or 5 Fridays, with the exception of 4th of July week, to go over new features within TopSolid's 2020 version. We will be sending out invitations to all of those each week so that you guys can learn week by week on some of these new features. I hope to see you guys in the next webinar. Thanks for attending.